Morning, Paul.
Morning.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. Yourself?
Yeah, very good.
Very good.
Thanks for joining us today. What we want to do today is talk about something that we encounter quite a lot when we're talking to our customers, we're talking to potential customers, and that really is gaining control over things in an organization that perhaps are a little bit out of control. Bring your own device, guest access, shadow IT are things that we come across and that we hear on a regular basis. Now, with our solution, Vasion Print, formerly PrinterLogic, we help organizations to not only gain control of centralized printing, but also printing in multiple locations, regardless of the brand, regardless of the type, regardless of the item that's actually on the network. And we give central IT much more control and give them less headaches for managing those things. Now, Paul, in terms of bring your own device, shadow IT, etc., what kind of experiences do you have that you've sort of come across when talking to customers?
I think what we see that particularly shadow IT is an issue for everything from small businesses all the way up to enterprises. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter what type of organization. The growth of things like smartphones, web-based apps, and that type of thing has really, really impacted organizations. And the fact that somebody can easily now effectively take on an application, say on a mobile device, and use it for business has presented a range of security issues and concerns, particularly for organizations, because they don't know where their data is, so rules about compliance or privacy have become a concern. And that's happened at the small or mobile devices, but actually it's happened larger scale as well. So there's some statistics for large enterprises. Gartner did some research and they reckoned it was 30 to 40% of IT spending in large enterprises was actually what we class as shadow IT. And some researchers suggested more as high as 50%. And initially you said, well, that doesn't seem possible. But actually, if you think about items of equipment purchased, let's say a replacement of a mouse or keyboard, supplies for equipment, whether that be paper, whether it be toner, perhaps for devices, and we'll perhaps come back to that as a topic. But also purchasing of software and licenses that then people are just expensing. So it's a vast issue, and it gets larger as organizations centralize their IT into one or two locations or put that out to third parties. Actually, there aren't IT people in every location or every country where businesses are. Okay. And so now what we're seeing is that shadow IT, well, 30 to 40% is a significant part of the IT budget.
Wow. I mean, I've got an experience of working with a Spanish university. They contacted us because they were getting constant help desk calls for devices that they had no idea were on their network, and that were print devices. So they didn't have a policy for not allowing employees to actually spend for personal devices. So, you know, an item as low cost as a printer, maybe picked up from a local supermarket, that suddenly goes onto the network. There's a problem with that printer. They phone the help desk, and the help desk has got no idea about it. So what we've got the ability to do is give that organization, that central IT desk, some control for that. So I think they had something like 200 devices they worked out on their network that they had no idea about, which is just crazy, really, because as you say, the spend of consumables, that'll all be very...
Consumer devices.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where they won't be under an enterprise contract.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go into a little bit more about what we do, who we are, and how we actually address some of those, like we described it, the Wild West of IT. So we're an organisation called Vasion. We started life as PrinterLogic back in 2011 and grown our business on helping organisations to automate the deployment of print drivers without the requirement for actual on-premise print servers. So in terms of the number of customers we've got, it's increasing on a regular basis. We're up to almost 14,000 customers, but where we see that as a really impressive stat is on the fact that we've got them as SaaS customers. So we're offering this solution as a software as a service. We're growing all the time in terms of our employees. Some stats that we captured from the customers that we have over 2 million printers that are now managed through our SaaS platform. Over 15 billion print jobs go through. So people think printing is actually on the decline, but these stats suggest otherwise. And one of our sort of favourite stats that we talk about a lot is when organisations come along and change the way that they do things, and that is getting rid of print servers, eliminating that on-premise infrastructure, they very rarely go back to that. So they retain the solution. And we have a really, really strong high retention rate of customers. The pain points that we solve, I mean, we talk about print servers, we talk about security. We help organisations to get rid of that infrastructure from their network. There's only really 3 ways of managing printing, and they haven't changed for 30, 40, however many years the print servers have been about. You can print directly to a printer. You can print via a central print server. You can print via distributed print servers. And that's really it. Now, what we offer is the ability to manage the printing directly to the printers with a cloud management platform over the top. So that provides print automation, and that's via our Vasion Print offering, Vasion Print solution. Now, in a lot of organisations, a lot of businesses who print sort of system-generated print, not the user-hitting file and print, it would be a system like an SAP or an Epic in the healthcare, Cerner, for instance. That system-generated print that goes directly to the printer. And that can be quite unreliable, kind of legacy applications. We can also manage this in our platform, giving IT control over those printers as well. And that's with our Vasion Output solution that allows for automation of that output and the management of it. Now, as we've expanded our solution and as we've grown as a business, customers are coming to us and asking us, can we help with their digital transformation plans? So we do have the ability to look at paper processes, look at processes that may be siloed across different parts of an organisation, and we can automate those documents and those processes with our Vasion automation platform. Now, this platform is all under the one Vasion automation platform. So across those elements, we've got Vasion Print, we've got Vasion Output, we've got Vasion Automate, all under the Vasion automation platform. Really, with the design or the goal of helping organisations to gain control. And we'll touch on a little bit more about how they do that with the shadow side of things. But ultimately, what we've been doing for many years is helping IT professionals we talk to on a daily basis to eliminate all print servers, delivering a highly available serverless printing infrastructure. You know this, Paul.
Many times.
And the thing is that we will always get people coming to us who have the headache, the IT admin headache of managing those print servers. And it's not just managing a server, it's managing the connectivity of that end user's laptop to that server, to that printer, and how that works. Now, the traditional way of managing that is with scripts, with group policy objects, with sort of all kinds of technical IT stuff that you work on. What we do is we help to automate and simplify that.
And I think it's worth saying that actually, for larger enterprises, we're just talking about the issue that large enterprises have. One of their other kind of shadow IT issues highlights this issue in that very few companies will purchase printers globally.
Yes.
So instead of doing that, what they'll do is they will purchase printers in each country.
Yes.
Because the main manufacturers, actually, they are operating separate companies in different locations. So you can't purchase from one company in Germany and also be purchasing the same product or from the same supplier in, say, Spain and the UK and the Netherlands and Turkey and South Africa. You can't easily do that. So though it's not actually shadow IT, you will see in those different locations, local purchasing people will buy from different manufacturers and probably end up with different print management solutions as well, or no print management solution, as we just mentioned. So it is the larger the enterprise, the more real hodgepodge of of technology that's out there with no consistency. And it's very hard for those organizations to actually have that under control. As we've said, IT has typically become centralized. There isn't IT in all those locations.
No, and that leads us on really quite nicely into an overview of some of the large customers that we've got. And one of the things with our platform is that it allows organizations like this to gain control centrally over that, as you say, hodgepodge of devices on network across the globe. An example that I always talk about, I worked, before I come along to Vasion, I worked for another solution provider working in the managed print space. Now, managed print take control of what you'd say is the multifunction devices in an office, and they offer the ability to do break fix and replenishment of consumables, offering a great service. Part of that service is a software platform for managing print management solutions, similar to what we offer, but it's generally provided just for those MFPs. So on a slide like this that we're showing here today, we would have Boots as a solution that we provide that software to. Little did I know, and then Boots had the central management platform, the head office MFDs with this software on, managing around 100 MFDs, so quite a sizable amount of devices to manage. Little did I know that when I came to PrinterLogic, as it was then, PrinterLogic was managing, I think it's over 12,000 print queues in all the retail stores. So we didn't know that. And that was managed by IT for all those different disparate locations. Because prior to managing that, they had print servers, not necessarily in all locations, but they had around about, I think, 400, if I remember rightly, print servers managing all the printing. And if you can imagine a Boots store, a Boots would require printing of a prescription. They'd also require perhaps opticians printing and back office printing. Now, you can't print back office printing on a prescription piece of paper. So you have to have something to control those printers and intelligently print on the correct tray. So Boots, prior to getting PrinterLogic in place, used to do this with scripts, with group policy objects, and occasionally servers failed. And when the server fails, printing's down, they have to redo the scripts, they have to get that up and running again. With PrinterLogic now Vasion Print, that is automatically managed and automated. And the point that I'm making is a lot of organizations like Boots, like DHL, 25,000 printers, they're gaining central control over multiple devices, over multiple locations. Now in Boots, that's predominantly in the UK, but it's also in Ireland, in other locations as well, all centrally managed by the Vasion platform. And it's almost kind of, it's an interesting point in the fact that as an organization, you do have the ability to predetermine what everybody uses for their email client, for their storage, for security. That's rolled out en masse. Printing's a different story because, like you say, you may have a contract in Germany, you may have a contract in the UK. They're all different. There may be different brands, different types of device, different contracts, different costs. It's a real mess. And what we're providing really is a control over that mess. Regardless of the brand, regardless of the contract, you can still gain control over everything you've got out there centrally with one central platform, which is, as far as printing goes, it's actually kind of cool. We get excited by it. The way that we do this, and this is pretty much my summary slide when I'm talking to customers, is, as I said before, there's three ways of managing print. When we get rid of print servers, when organizations get rid of that traffic cop, as you like, that handles the delivery of print, we effectively ask customers to migrate what they've got out there into our admin console. Now, that admin console is in the cloud. It's a SaaS-based solution, as I said. And that contains all the drivers, all the centrally managed drivers, so they would upload their drivers into this admin console. They would manage all the deployments, all the profile settings, all the automations centrally. That's all managed centrally. From there, the organization has the ability to automatically deploy drivers and deploy printers to users' workstations. But there's also the ability for users to utilize the self-service portal. So they could actually go to a location and click on a printer and install that. Now that's all done in a system context, so there's no elevated admin rights, etc. But the way that we do this is that we actually communicate with a desktop client on each and every workstation, whether that's Windows, Mac, Linux. We can work with Chromebooks, iOS, Android, so pretty much any endpoint we can work with. And that's what we're talking about here is organizations and employees on the same network. We also have the option for guest networks. We also have the option for off network, which you're going to give us a demonstration of shortly. But the key thing with us is that we're centrally managing direct IP printing. So we often, when we're talking to people, we get a misconception of people thinking cloud print, that print job goes through the cloud. Well, in some scenarios it can do, but the vast majority, that print job stays local. So it goes from the workstation to the printer rather than it going to a print server. So, and that print server in the cloud, and there's none of that. We're effectively managing a direct IP platform for print to go directly from the workstation to the printer. It's kind of a simple concept, but it's a really it's really scalable. We've got customers, as you know, with over 100,000 printers, which is insane.
Well, you couldn't do it with a central server.
No,
very clear, and that's one of these things about these distributed organizations.
Yeah.
They had to do it with local servers because there was no other way of doing it. This solution rewrites that kind of rule book.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's funny. Not everybody's doing it, and when we do a lot of trade shows, as you know, and when we're at a trade show, on the back of our stand it says "Eliminate print servers." The amount of people who still stop and say, "Tell me how you do that, then." They're the bane of my life. I really don't want to deal with a print server anymore. They don't know there's another way. And I think the thing that it sort of delights us, really, it excites us in the fact that we get to talk to people who don't know there's another way. And when we show them this, they're like, oh, no.
It's light bulb moment.
It is. It really is. It's really quite cool. Okay, so we've got a bit of a demo.
Yeah, well, let's do a little explanation of what we're talking about as well. So with organizations where they want to control IT, there's several things that they'll want to be able to do, one of which is they won't want visitors coming into their IT. Now, we talked a bit earlier about shadow IT, and one of the related things actually is bring your own device as well. And so then you've got devices that are probably not authorized on the corporate network. They are members of staff that are doing that. And you need to provide a way to provide printing for that.
Okay, and then I'd like to hand over to you, Paul, actually, to give us a demo of one of the ways that we can help with BYOD, shadow IT, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we'll talk about a couple of things around this demo. One of which is that for organizations where people are bringing their own devices, the likelihood is they're not on the network. Yes. So that limits all sorts of things. It may be that they can do things via web browsers, but actually they probably don't have access to the network infrastructure. So to allow those to print, we have to offer some solution around that. The other scenario that this feature we're going to show also addresses is visitors. So in the past, if you visited a site, maybe you would be given access to the network if you needed to print, or you would use a USB memory stick, or perhaps you'd email a document and needed printing. Now, all of those scenarios are actually security risks. Yes. And most corporate devices now don't allow the USB stick to be used, and sending a document over email to somebody in that site, again, is potentially a huge risk or something that's just not an acceptable approach. So what we've developed is a product called Web Print. Okay. This is both guest printing, but it could also be used for internal staff. And I'll just take you through how this works. So this is a web-based platform as part of our cloud solution, our SaaS solution. And as a guest, I will be given a URL. I go to the link. So this is our Web Print solution. It's cloud hosted on our SaaS platform. And a visitor, a guest, or somebody on a BYOD device can come into here and sign in as a visitor. They'll put an email address. And they can either drag documents in from their desktop, or they can equally just click to upload. Let's quickly grab the document. And as I say, it could be 10, and we're going to give them the option as well to preview the document on the next page. And depending on how this is done, we might also offer them a list of printers. We've just got one here for web print. I can change whether it's color or black and white. I can maybe change the page format. And then I just print. Now, as a visitor, I'll then receive an email to that email address that we've just seen.
Okay.
And that will contain instructions. So if I just go and look at that, and hopefully I've had my email. Here we go. So this has brought me instructions on how I can release my job. And within the organization, I can go up to a printer. Now that printer would typically be one that the organization are using for secure release. So perhaps they'd normally use an ID pin or a card to do that.
Yeah.
But on the screen will be an option for releasing their visitor print jobs. And with a unique code, you can release that print.
Okay. That's good. That's really cool, actually. I mean, how would you say that's different from, I suppose, email to print or basic guest access?
Well, guest access, these days, actually, guest access may not be very viable. It may be that they're not given access. There isn't a way of IT giving people access to the network or the printers. For email, there's no security risk. So especially if it could be confidential data that's being sent. It could be commercial information. It could equally be something where it might be, for example, patient records or something related to a particular client.
Okay.
So in that case, this means that the privacy is completely protected and the whole process is encrypted end to end. There's no points of that where the documents aren't secure.
Okay. And what about sort of compliance? Does this help with things like HIPAA and GDPR?
Well, anywhere where you need control and reporting on what's done.
Yeah.
So if you look at HIPAA and GDPR, it is about personal and private information. And here we're not sending it around. As soon as we send it by email, an email probably is the most risky of these approaches. You have the problem that the email can be forwarded. You may not be sending it to somebody who should see the document. So it might be a commercial visit, but you're sending it to maybe the person in reception who's near the printer or is able to do that print. That's really not a very good approach from a safety point of view, a safety of documents.
And you say about control, and that's what this is all about. We're talking about gaining control and giving organizations control. How does an organization control the amount of prints, for instance, that a guest would do?
We have settings to restrict it. So you can restrict how many can be done. And there's other things we've done just to be a kind of ease of life as well. One of which is that the PIN code, we can specify that actually it would last for a few days. So something like not a daily visitor, let's say a contractor that's in for a week.
Yes.
Actually, they'd use the same PIN for a week. So they've been sent an email. We'll still continue to send them an email each time they want to do a release, but actually we can set it so they'll continue to receive the same PIN for that period. So making a really convenient, flexible way for a visitor or a contractor who's not allowed on the network to print.
That makes sense. Okay.
And it's worth adding as well, there are reports as well that will be kept within there.
Right. And if you had multiple sites, multiple locations, multiple campuses, for instance, how easy is this to deploy?
It's as easy as our way of deploying our secure release solution.
Okay.
You just enable it within the license and it's all functional.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, that's really cool. Again, we get excited about print. I mean, we need to get out on the ball.
It really does.
But to be fair, the thing that we are doing is we're listening to our customers, we're listening to our prospects and looking at the market. We're looking to address that control and providing organisations with centralised control of the Wild West of bring your own devices.
And I think we're in that post-COVID era.
Yes.
Where work is it's now about the activity you do. It isn't about location. So it's users being able to print wherever they go, whether that's visiting people that come to visit you as an organization, or that you're in different locations and within different parts of your business. And actually, one of the key things we're saying is we just want to make print function for however you're needing to do it, because nobody prints for fun anymore. Nobody particularly prints. They don't come in the morning and their emails out. Now, printing documents because they need a paper version of that document for a business process. And we want to enable that and make it straightforward to happen.
Yeah, and we simplify things and make things nice and easy. One of the things I like to do occasionally is have a look at Reddit and look at some of the comments that people make, and they just say it just works. And this is something that is constantly evolving, it's constantly sort of being developed. We're so proud of the solutions that we deliver. But if there are more questions, the contact details are on the slide now. We're more than happy, Paul and myself, if you're not sick of hearing our voices already, we're more than happy to talk you through in more detail about some of the intricacies of our solution and align it with your own organisation, and just sort of look at some of the experiences that we've had with some of those large organisations that we mentioned before. We're more than happy to provide you with a demo, an overview, and you can even trial the solution in your own location. So please get in touch. And I think that wraps us up for today, Paul. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that, and hope to speak to you soon.